Hey, beautiful people. Welcome to Cocktails and Conversations podcast with me, Deborah Babio. I'm a cultural connector, curator, and all-round formidable force within the fashion, entertainment, and lifestyle space. This podcast blends good vibes, meaningful conversations, and a splash of inspiration. Every week, we're serving up candid chats on wellness, lifestyle, and personal growth, all with a refreshing twist. So grab your favorite cocktail or mocktail and join me along with some industry pros and close friends as we delve into the roller coaster of modern life. Cheers! In this episode of Cocktails and Conversations, I sit down with the wonderful Mikey Abegunde to delve deep into the complexities of navigating adult friendships, the highs, the challenges, and everything in between. As we evolve, so do our friendships. Careers, relationships, personal growth, and life changes all impact the way we connect with those around us. Mikey and I have an honest conversation about maintaining meaningful connections, recognizing when friendships no longer serve us, and the art of making new friends as an adult. With a cocktail in hand, we shared personal stories, hard-learned lessons, and of course, a few laughs along the way. Whether you're working on strengthening your circle, setting boundaries, or figuring out where you stand in certain friendships, this conversation is one you won't want to miss. So grab a drink, tune in, and let's talk about what it really means to show up for those friendships that really matter. Hello there.
Hello, my love.
Welcome to Miss Casa.
Thank you. Thanks so much for having me.
Oh, you're welcome. You're welcome. Please introduce yourself to us.
Yes, indeed. I'm Mikey Abegunde.
Nice. And what do you do, Mikey?
I'm a publicist and talent manager, so I work with music artists.
You're so more than that. You
okay.
are fabulous.
All right, let's go with that.
You are the fabulous Mikey who works with all the stars and does so many things. And today we're here on Cocktails and Conversations to discuss about navigating adult friendships. And thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you for having me. I'm looking forward to the conversation.
Nice. Yes. Well, before we start, let me pour you a drink.
Okay, thank you.
Fabulous.
What do we have?
We have a lovely Shirley Temple.
Amazing. This looks fab.
I know, for the audience, Shirley Temple is normally with a cherry, but cherry's not in season, so
okay, so it's given seasonal and sustainable.
Exactly, seasonal and sustainable. Cheers, my love.
Cheers, darling.
Oh, that is nice, if I do say so myself. Ooh,
this is good.
I'm good.
Okay, so more in there for when we finish it.
So to get straight into it, for me, navigating adult friendships has been something that I've gone up and down with because I kind of class myself as a loner, even though I've got so many friends. If you were at my birthday party, you know, like over 400 people. Yeah. But I'm quite personable. But when I think about friendships, I know people talk about a lot about relationships, like, you know, romantic relationship,
or intimate,
intimate relationship, or whatever you call it. But actual friendships is a relationship that we don't talk about that much, and really navigating when you're an adult is quite challenging. I feel it's like, because obviously you start together, you grow apart, you're living your different lives. Some people are getting married, some people are getting engaged, some people are getting divorced, some people are having kids, some people, and you're like, you know, life just takes you in different paths. So
it does.
I wanted to ask, how do you navigate that, and how do you stay close to your friends? Because I think you do it so well. I love your friendship groups that you have. You in particular have such fabulous friendship groups, and sometimes I'm a little bit envious of that. So I need you to tell me the tricks.
You're in there as well anyway. You're part you're part of the friendship groups.
I'm glad.
You definitely are. But how do I navigate? It's a tricky one. I think maybe I do have amazing friends and amazing friendships. And I do think from the outside, it might seem, I mean, you look at it and you think, okay, this person is kind of handling these friendships. Like, maybe not well, because I would say I handle them well, or as well as I can do, but maybe easily is the word. And I think it does take a lot of, effort, but I think it is about discerning what is the right kind of effort. Right. I think not effort in the sense of having to over-explain yourself to people, or effort in kind of like flogging or beating a dead horse, for use of a better term, but effort, being intentional with your friendships, being intentional with getting to know your friends, being intentional with getting to know yourself as well. That's important. And I think being intentional around embracing the differences with your friends and people around you, in addition to what you have in common and what you have, the similarities that you have, I would say.
Right.
Yeah.
Now that we're in our 40s, how do you navigate new friendships?
I think with new friendships now, it's about just approaching them like just with fresh energy, not bringing in kind of old relationships, I think, or friendships into this new thing that you're kind of starting or navigating. I think with the old friendships or previous friendships, maybe there are things that you've kind of learned and you've evolved as a person. But I think it's about just going into it fresh, not judging this person based on what's happened to you in the past.
And what do you think about, like, obviously we're both in the creative and entertainment industry. What do you think about friends versus like associates? How do you navigate who's who? You know,
Yeah.
because everyone wants to be your friend.
Right. when the time
Everyone
when
wants to be like Kiki,
and when
but
the time
who's
is
actually
right.
the
Yes.
friend?
I think even with that again, I think this goes with a lot of things with friendships and relationships is often we know. So I think it's about being discerning, but often we know, but we just don't really act on what we're feeling on the inside because maybe it feels uncomfortable or it just doesn't maybe feel right to kind of rock the boat too much. But most of the time, like 9, whatever times out of 10, we know who are our people and who show up for us and who are genuine, who have our backs. I think there are certain things or life experiences or situations that help us to kind of see it and show and maybe prove it. And, you know, it doesn't work with just one way, it works, you know, on our side as well. But I think we know. So I think it is just about, I think, being discerning and not getting carried away. And I think that's quite good, a thing that you're very good at. And I would like to say I'm quite good at as well. It's just not getting too carried away and swept away by the glitz and the lights and the everything. I think it's just being able to go home at the end of the day after an event, after whatever, and knowing that you feel good inside of yourself with who you are and you feel good with the people around you. Because we do have to navigate tricky characters and people because of the nature of the work that we do. But I think it's about just knowing who our true, real people are as well.
For me, I feel like it's true what you said is having that discernment, because sometimes you really do have to have your eyes wide open, because it is the nature of our work. You have to be very social. You have to network with people. You have to become friends. You need to have those relationships in order to do the job that we do.
Yeah.
So therefore, it's sometimes I feel like it can be quite taxing on, you know, your energy resources to actually be everything to everyone all at the same time. And
it can be.
the way I navigate it is, like you said, having that discernment of who is actually a friend where you can be like, hey, I'm in a bind and I really need your help, versus it's a transactional.
Always transactional,
and it's always
or it's
like,
always just about having a good time.
Yeah, or they call you just because.
Just because, yes.
You know, or they call you only when. Only when. You know that
Exactly.
only when?
The only when a certain date is coming
When
up.
the certain date's coming out. When a
Who's got a
certain
message
event
or
is
call
coming
today?
up. When there's a certain, you know.
Yeah.
When they feel like you might have to be the person. the connect.
Yes.
You know? Those ones. And I mean, don't get me wrong, we've all done it. We've all been there. It's the nature of the things we do, but it's just navigating, I guess, within those adult relationships and friendships and who's friend and who's foe, because sometimes not everyone is your friend. Not everyone is rooting for you. And as sad as it is, that's the truth and that's the nature of the society we live in.
It is. It's like the nature of just life.
Life in general, not even just our society. Sometimes I've heard stories where friends are really have not like in your face. They've is saying that they're your friend, but on the flip side, the stories or the things they've done. Oh, I've heard some stories.
Things they've done, things
they've done, the things they've said, and you're like, how can this be? This is my friend. Yeah. And it's just like really trying to navigate that, because for me, anyway, I'm a all or nothing type of friend. It's sometimes it's a little bit hard to be my friend, because I'm really all or nothing. Sometimes I'm all in there, but then when something happens, I pull back and like, you can really be dead to me. You can really
just like that.
We've been friends since childhood, just like that. I'm done, because I feel like the hurt, like when I trust you,
Yeah, you put your
like
all
I put my
into your
like
people, your
120%,
friendships.
like
Yeah,
people, everything. If you need, I will literally like drop everything if a friend said like they needed me or what is it, I'm
yeah,
there, right? But then also on the flip side, sometimes I can be quite absent, and if I don't hear from them, it's like life be lifing, right? And
yeah,
we don't
yes,
get. But in my head, of course, but I'm also finding ways to navigate that. I have to be more vocal and showing people that vulnerability is not always when they call me to say, "Hey, I need you," before I'm there, if you know what I mean.
yes,
And just being like navigating that a little bit more, especially with female and male friends. I feel like I from young I get on with male friends more.
okay,
Like I because I like I said, I was a tomboy. Um I don't know if I said that previously, but I was a tomboy growing up, and I was very much always comfortable. Don't get me wrong, I had girlfriends, I had girls who were friends, but I naturally gravitated to the guys. I don't know, I just don't know if it was a case of I just didn't want that bitchy nature or
yeah,
that girls are just quite catty or the jealousy or
yeah.
and also I was never really the pretty one in the group, right? I wasn't the ones that's like, oh my god, let's go and check this boy and blah blah blah. I was very much like I was with the boys.
Pretty
I was
babe
playing
like
for
you, child.
I was playing. I've grown into the girl.
Yeah,
Let's be
yeah,
real.
yeah,
Like now it's like yeah, I'm that babe.
yeah,
But before
yeah.
I really wasn't. I was really struggling to, and also coming from an immigrant background,
That's a
being
whole other
born. That's
conversation.
us. We'll get into
There's
that,
a whole
but
other strand when it
that's
comes
a
to friendship
whole
and how we navigate friendships.
absolutely, and it's literally navigating that because coming from Ghana, having to make new friends, having an accent
Yeah,
in school, trying to who's for you, who's not, having people that don't look like you,
yeah,
trying to really navigate what they don't really, parents prepare you as much as they can for the outside world, but they don't really. I guess they also don't have the tools or didn't have the tools to do that. So you're really just learning on the job.
yeah.
You're really just learning on the job. And,
It's
and for
something.
me, it's just been a case of I always put kindness first because I think that's in this world, it's that's a little bit lacking
I
sometimes.
think it is lacking. And I think that even goes back to my point, I think, about navigating new friendships is if you know, the thing is, no one's perfect. But if you know that your intentions, your heart is pure, also, no one's perfect. Everyone makes mistakes. But if you know you enter friendships in a certain kind of way and you give your all, you give your 120, 150%, I think it goes back to what I said about when you navigate new friendships, it is about just going into it with openness and an open heart and not allowing certain things that have happened in the past to color this new friendship or relationship too much. Yes, you might be, I think it's about, yeah, not being guarded, but you might have your kind
Oh,
of,
that's not being
yeah,
guarded. I don't
not being
know.
guarded.
I
Not
don't
being
know. We
guarded.
have to
We
agree
have
to
to dig,
disagree on that
yeah.
one.
Well, because I think when I say not being, I was even trying to find the words or like to express it. I think when I say not being guarded, it's kind of having your guards down to an extent. But then, of course, there are certain things that you might have experienced that, again, with discernment, you're able to maybe pick up on certain things as much as you're not, you're taking this person as someone completely brand new, but you're still aware of things. And I think there are things that you do, not as I'm going to test this person, but even when it comes to boundaries and stuff like that. I think boundaries, and there are a lot of words that are used within therapy talk or whatever that are just often like bounded around a
Can we
lot.
pause for there? Everybody needs therapy.
Again,
Everybody.
honestly. But even within that, like boundaries aren't always just these hard, rigid. In fact, they shouldn't necessarily be so rigid. Maybe some might be more rigid than others, but they're not these necessarily scary things. But boundaries might even just be you don't take calls after a certain time, or you don't go to certain places now at this point in your life, or you don't want to have certain kind of conversations. And boundaries, I think, test friendships or relationships because it then is how do people react to you not wanting to gossip about a certain thing or a certain kind of
Yeah.
person, you not wanting to go to a certain place or stay at the club till 4
Yeah.
a.m., you maybe not drinking at the moment and people trying to push you towards drinking and stuff. So it's all of those kind of things I think that test a friendship or any relationship. And then you can start picking up on certain things. So when I say not guarded, it doesn't mean like we're kind of like just running around, skipping around, thinking everything and everyone is just amazing and everything is okay. But yeah, just knowing that you will be okay and you have the strength and the tools to discern, I would say.
How have you built those tools? How have you built that discernment? How have you grown into that? For some of our listeners listening, they might be navigating different things and not had that experience or that growth yet, and they may be in a particular friendship that's worrying them. Have you had a friendship that you thought would last forever but didn't? How did you deal with that?
I have. And I think how I've worked around all of this, I think definitely is therapy, as you highlighted and pointed out. So definitely therapy, but also definitely experience. As you said, we're in our 40s now. So I think, yes, therapy is amazing, but also it's life experience and how you deal with life experience, how you learn from mistakes, but also just how you learn from, it's not always just about the negative learning from it. How do you learn from the positive as well? I think something that I've done a lot in my life with friendships or relationships generally is, I think, again, going back to background, for me, it's been hyper focusing on friends or people who don't necessarily understand me. So I'm really trying to over explain myself, really trying to overextend myself, trying to kind of like bring them on board or on my side. And it's taken big life things to happen for me to realize that actually I've always had amazing, amazing people in my corner, on my side, in my friendship groups, in my, like people I can call close, amazing friends. But I've tended to hyper focus on those relationships. And I think a lot of us maybe overlook what we have literally right in front of us because we're running around trying to please other people. And friendships aren't about pleasing people.
No, I
you
hear
know
you.
so I
hear
think
you.
that's
I'm a self-confessed people pleaser. I'm working through that. And sometimes I think, like I said, I'm the 0 to 100 kind of person. Sometimes it's like super people pleasing, and next minute it's like no,
yeah.
it's a no, it's a no from me. And one of my friends actually calls me stealth.
I like that. I'm going to start using that for you.
Because I can literally just I like people literally ask like, "Oh, you here alone?" I'm like, "Yeah." "Oh, you're traveling here alone?" I'm like, "Yeah." "Oh, yeah." To me, it's like a no-brainer, but some people wait for a friend, and no, there's no shame in that. Like some people need that companionship, some people need that bond, but I can literally go anywhere in the world by myself.
I'm the
So
same.
I
I'm
mean,
like that.
as long as it's not a war zone,
Yeah.
but like I can literally jump on a plane and go and not
Yeah.
know anyone then and kind of figure it out. And I think that stemmed from trying to do boundaries, but at the same time trust in friends and also the growth. Like people are just not in the same place. You all
Yeah.
think you're
And
gonna all
that's
grow up together, do things
fine.
together, but some people get married, some people, have kids. They can't just jump
Yeah.
and leave. And not saying that my path hasn't gone that way. Not saying that when it does, I don't know, I could be a different friend, So
Yeah.
but it's also understanding that, because sometimes it can be like, oh, why are they not able to do this, or why are they not able to understand where I'm coming from?
Yes.
And it's just like, I guess it's like you said, giving grace, having compassion, having discernment to understand that things just change, and then also knowing yourself,
No,
like yourself, and being
yes.
at peace with the fact that, like you said, being as long as you're a good person, you're coming from a good place, and just knowing that. But I also have a flip side of it. Sometimes it can get a little bit lonely because no one can read your mind, right? And so it's the case of understanding that you have to communicate
You
sometimes,
do.
and that's where sometimes I get a little bit like,
Yeah.
oh, it's all good. I'm just, who cares? It
Yeah.
doesn't really matter. But then it does affect, because
It
sometimes
definitely
you
does.
need friends. You
You
need
definitely
you
need
need
friends.
people.
And, it's like you said, people can't read your mind. It's like you read my mind.
I mean, I'm good at that. I can read between the lines.
Because I think a lot of this might stem from like backgrounds,
Oh,
being first
absolutely.
generation here, all of that kind of stuff, or like having immigrant family, parents, all of that stuff. You can then develop a hyper kind of independence, which
Absolutely.
has put us in good stead for some things, maybe like in terms of even the kind of line of work we do, just being like the resilience, I guess, that we have. But I think there are certain things that might have served you then that
Right.
might not necessarily serve
You're
us
so right.
now.
Yeah.
And it's about just being able to change, being able to evolve. And also, I think another thing or another good sign of a friendship is knowing that you can ask that friend for help. And people can help. Help can come in so many different ways. and people have different resources, people have different tools and ways of dealing with things. But just knowing that you can even just say to someone, I'm struggling with something, I'm struggling, whether it's with a friend, another friendship, with a relationship, just your general mental health, career, all of that stuff, knowing you can do that. But also, yes, it's about knowing that you can do that with a particular friend, but also knowing that you can actually just do it and open up. So I think it's about getting a balance of knowing that you can be independent and you can fly across the world. You can take yourself to the cinema, you can take yourself to the restaurant, and you can sit there by yourself and have your cocktail and have your meal. But also, when you need it, you can ask people for help, and you have those people around you that you can ask for help and for
But
support.
it's insane that, and I do agree, but it's also harder when you are super
It
independent.
definitely is, yeah.
You're so like in your bubble, in that self-sufficientness. I think asking for help does really take, like, you wait till the last minute
You definitely
before it's like, okay, if
child,
I don't, if someone like,
child,
if like if this
yeah,
is, it for me anyway, personally, it takes a lot. And I feel like it's a sense of, if that person lets you down,
yeah.
there's a risk of that. With anything, there's a risk,
There's
right?
always a risk, yeah.
But I feel like if that person lets you down, the not the pain, but like the risk of it sometimes is a bit too much, so you just kind of figure it out
Yeah,
yourself. But I also know that it's, no man is an island. You have to ask for help.
you do.
But I definitely feel like navigating friendships and different stages of our lives is like, they always say, oh, you know you're really good friends when you haven't talked for ages, but you pick up the phone one day and you just start from where
Yeah.
you left off. And that can really happen. But there's also, life happens, things
Like,
change,
yeah,
and you know your life compared to their life just might not be the same.
yeah,
Therefore, it's no one's fault, but life just takes you in a
yeah,
different direction, and maybe you're not as good friends as you're both thinking, but you wish each other well.
yeah,
Everything is fine, and obviously when you see each other, it's all love.
yeah,
But it's also okay to be apart and have a different narrative to them,
yeah,
and really build on what you're doing, and supporting each other. I think
yeah,
that's the biggest thing, in terms of, as long as you're supportive of each other and there's no jealousy or envy or anger towards the person because they've moved on, or
yeah,
they've got a life that you thought you would have as well, or whatever it is. It's just navigating, and that's real. Like, I know people that be like, yeah, that friend was really jealous of me, and I found out that they were doing this and that behind my back because they wanted what I had, or
yeah,
they were trying to even move to my person, or there's stories.
yeah.
We've all heard those stories. And
We've had
it's
them.
just like, it's one thing in this adult like life, life be life in. But it's, friendships are so fragile but also so strong, and I do admire, like I said, I admire the way you navigate your friendships and the way you bring people together, and the kind of breadth of friendships you have. I feel like you've got a good landscape. There's some friends, it's like, these are the people I grew up with, this is
Yeah,
what it is, or this is my core people, and then there's no one
yeah.
else in there. But I feel like you do it so well in terms of navigating, and
Thank you.
I feel like everyone feels like, yeah, Mikey
Oh,
is,
thank you.
no,
But
absolutely.
you have a similar thing too with your friends, and the
You,
way yeah, definitely the way you bring people together.
I think,
You
but
know,
that's more work though. That's my
Ye-
you know
it is, but I mean, even
hostess with the mostest
yeah,
kind of nature.
I mean, it is to an extent, and I think, but then I think again, our personalities are mostly things that do help us with our work and our careers anyway. So I think a
Yeah.
lot of that is if you didn't have that innately in you somehow, or if you weren't able to kind of push that out of you, you just wouldn't do it, and people wouldn't be drawn to you anyway.
No, I mean,
Yeah,
I hope I'm a good friend, but sometimes I do realize that, oh my God, I haven't spoken to this person in so long, or oh my God, I didn't even check in on this person. Oh my God, they just had a baby, I need to check. And then life just
yeah,
happens, right? And making that effort sometimes, I feel like it's the nature of my job
yeah,
is I give so much energy out. Sometimes I do neglect those other friendships because I'm depleted from the other side.
yes,
And then it becomes a case of, how do I navigate this? Because
yeah,
I do want to keep my friends. I do cherish them, but it's like, how do I push through and keep going and be this boss babe in this career world, but also having to manage friendships, family life, you know, siblings,
Yeah.
just life in general,
I
you
think
know,
that's about
let
balance
alone,
anyway. Like balance, most people
balance.
balance is key. So I think it's
Please, I don't know what that word
but,
means.
I think that's something you're going to have to at some point just look at and
Teach me, Michael.
I'll
Teach
try
me.
because
What do you
I'm
mean?
even trying.
You've sussed it. Teach us.
I think
Do masterclass.
I've sussed it to an extent. I'm the kind of
You need
person,
to
you
do
know me.
masterclass, please.
I'm the kind of person that some days where I'm like, enough is enough. Let me just sit down and let me just lie down, or let me just go and take myself out and go to the,
No,
I go
you're
to the
good
gym
at
a lot
that.
and stuff.
Yeah, you're good at
So I
those
know that
boundaries.
helps me. I think for me, I haven't been so good with boundaries growing up. And even, I say growing up, even as an adult. But I think I've had to, even again, before therapy and stuff, I've had to, and even before I had an idea of what boundaries were, I think I've had to implement things in my life to create those boundaries. So again, even just going to the gym, knowing that, okay, on the way to the gym, it's time I've just kind of carved out for myself. And I'm going to go, I'm going to put my phone down, and I'm not going to be contactable for an hour. So that's me time. And even on my way back, I'm going to grab a coffee before I start working again. So that was something I implemented in my life to create certain kind of space and boundaries. But then I think sometimes we have to be even more intentional with, our boundaries, with our space, with our energy. So if I'm sat at home all day and I'm not going to the gym, I should be able to say to myself, for this hour or two, whatever it is, I'm not going to pick up my phone. I'm not going, unless there's something urgent that's popping up, I'm not going to pick up my phone. I'm going to chill, I'm going to watch TV, I'm going to read, I'm going to journal, I'm going to do whatever. So I think I have a balance, but I mostly could work on that balance, I think, a bit more.
I mean, like you were saying, do you feel like, how did you get to that point where you're like, okay, I'm gonna, because it is hard in this society we live. Everything's so fast paced. You have to be everything to everyone. Everybody wants your time. How did you just really ground yourself? And what did that affect relationships when people are like, oh, what do you mean you can't, like, well, how can I
Yeah,
not reach you?
it definitely did. Yeah, 100% did. And I think, again, it goes back to what I spoke about in terms of when you test friendships or relationships, and not like I'm going to test you today,
No,
but no,
yeah,
I'm just going
yeah.
to stand in my truth. I'm going to stand on business, and I'm going to just be how I want to be. And it doesn't mean that you're being necessarily selfish, but you're just saying, I'm just going to do this. I'm going to be this way. And it's not rigid, but still, I'm just going to lean into this a bit more. And it definitely has. But then I think, in the same way that it's definitely shown that there are some people who can't handle that, because maybe there's a benefit of you just literally rolling over and let people doing whatever they want to do or say. But then also it highlights the people who really stand for you, because you've changed. They've seen so many changes in you, but they're there for you. In fact, it's even strengthening those friendships and those bonds, because it's more genuine. It's coming from the heart more. So
Yeah.
yes, it's definitely, I've seen both sides of the
And I guess with
coin with it.
anything, when you lose something, you gain something, right? When a
Definitely,
one door closes, another
100%.
door opens. So therefore, as we do evolve, as we do grow, just know that your friendships are gonna change, and the dynamics of your friendships are gonna change.
Yeah.
Navigating different seasons of your life, and like literally, basically figuring out, you know, who stays, who goes, and mourning those friendships. Sometimes, like for me, there was a friendship that I thought, oh my God, we're like sisters for life,
Yeah.
absolute sisters for life. And then something happened, and then we literally don't talk anymore. And I'm
Yeah.
like, but what?
What?
It is like losing a family member,
It
because
is.
it's
It's
like
hard to deal.
you really had them in your life, and you really saw a future, and you were so invested that it's like, how are we not friends?
Yeah.
And it wasn't like they did something really bad. It's like, I don't know, it was just the disagreement, and that, and then, all of a
Yeah.
sudden it's like no more. It's like, how do you move on from that? How do you kind of navigate when, like, when someone's done you bad, like me, the cutoff is real. It's
It's
easier.
very real. It's very
It's
easy
easy.
to
It's
do, because it's
easy.
clear.
It's
It's clear.
clear. There's a
Yeah.
boundary crossed. Okay, you're
You know
done to
what's,
me. You're,
yeah.
yeah. But when it's like, oh, like, but how can you?
Yeah.
We were totally on the same page. How can this be what doesn't break
Yeah.
us?
I think,
were we really friends?
yeah,
Was
it
it
does
really
make you
real?
question a
You know,
lot.
you have all these questions.
It definitely makes you question a lot about the friendship. It makes you question stuff about yourself.
Absolutely.
But I think it's even just about, as you said, again, just mourning. If it gets to that point where it's like, okay, we need to just go our separate ways, it is about mourning it properly and realizing that it was something you had that was very special, that you cherished and treasured. But it's time for whatever reason to move on, but just feeling it, feeling whatever it is. Because I think the difference with, I think, a friendship breakup and intimate relationship breakup is, again, with a friendship, as you said, it feels like sometimes that you could be with that person for the rest of your life. You kind of think to yourself, what could possibly happen that would make us not
Yeah.
speak again? At least with a relationship, you might think, okay, we're going to be together forever, but there are so many things that could happen that
Absolutely.
make you know that, okay,
Yeah.
relationships end or whatever. So friendships, I think that's why it can hit. I don't know if I'd say hard. It hits in
I think
harder
I think like it hits
because it hits
harder.
in a different,
Yeah, in a different
different
in a
way.
different way.
Because also, I think you have however many friends, even if you're
Mm.
the kind of person you have 5 close friends or you have 10 to 15 close friends. Intimate relationships, you have that one,
Yeah.
and then to an extent, you're not replacing that person,
Mm.
but yet then you end up with another person. Whereas with friendships, that friendship, I guess, is just so unique.
And they're different to
They're different,
everyone in the friendship
exactly.
group.
Yes,
So therefore, it's not like you can just replace them,
exactly.
right? And trying to navigate new friendships and bring in merging people you've known
Yeah,
since you were like your teens to now, like we're in our 40s, trying to
yeah,
bring those new friendships and just trying to also navigate how you merge yourself into
yeah.
someone
Into
else's
something,
new,
someone
yeah,
else's, exactly,
yeah,
something
someone
new.
else's new friendship and being, but like I think you said, it's all about being open, knowing that you might not have that history that you do with your, you know, childhood friends,
Yeah,
but it's a different kind of
it's
friendship.
different. Yeah,
It's different, and I think accepting that and knowing that you're at peace with who you are and whatever you're coming to offer them in terms of, because it is, friendship is a two-way street,
it
you know,
is a
and
two-way street.
please make sure it is a two-way street, because sometimes there is that one friend that's always, you know, giving everything and then the
Yes,
other one's receiving.
yeah.
And if that works for you, that works
If
for
it
you.
works
But
for you, it works for you. But that
I think
often is
as you just that often it comes to a head, right?
exactly
It
because it's
does,
an
as you grow and
imbalance. It causes
and like I
things.
said, life experience.
Yeah,
And you know, we're early in our 40s and we've got so much more to go and so much more to do, and it's just like like where I thought I would be in my friendships, it's not really there. Or like, am I the one that's evolving? Am I the one that needs to change? Am I the one that this is why therapy is key, guys. This is why everyone needs, because
it's
sometimes
key.
you be in your head a
It's
lot,
very,
like,
very
you
key.
know, because like, our life is just so full on. Like, we are literally our ancestors' wildest dream. Who would have thought?
Yeah,
Who would have thought the abundance that we have right now
yeah.
and the choices and
The choices, even just
the
being sat here having this
right
conversation, is
is just
it's
such a privilege
beautiful.
and
It's a
a
privilege.
joy.
Exactly.
A privilege and a joy. And sometimes it's true. I think I'm my own worst critic. I always like striving for more and striving to be. There's nothing being wrong with being ambitious and wanting more. Definitely not. But sometimes I have to sit with myself and think, actually, I got it
You
good.
gotta go. Be for
I got it
real.
really, really, really good. I'm so blessed. I'm so blessed to have friends. I'm so blessed to have people that I can really call and just be like, hey, I need help, like you were
Yeah,
saying, or hey, what are you doing today? Or just
yeah,
to be like, good morning. It's just really the simple things. Someone you send someone a good morning, or someone will send you a good morning. Like anyone that I haven't replied to your messages, forgive me. I feel laughing. But there's people that check in,
yeah,
people that love you, people that are there for you, and you have to, as much as, you know, sometimes it can be a lonely experience living life. You
yeah,
know, you become alone, we leave alone, but it's also understanding, just navigating the ones you have. Like you said, you've got 5 core friends and they're there.
yes.
That's great. Yes, you might want a different set of friendship, or you see someone who has, oh my god, that friendship group looks so good, but you don't know what they did
You
to
don't.
achieve that.
You
You don't
don't
know
know.
what the really ins and
Yeah,
outs are. You're seeing it from the surface unless you're in that friendship. But it's navigating it to a point where you're like, actually, I'm a good person.
yeah,
You give 110%, and that's all you can do. sometimes, you can feel, oh my God, I've been a bad friend. I haven't checked in. Like I said,
Yeah.
paths are just going in
Yeah.
different ways. Someone's had a baby, someone's got married, you drift apart. Life is, happening at full speed. And sometimes you feel like, oh, I haven't touched in. And oh my God, they're going to feel like I don't care. But it's like, so long as you know that you're doing the best you can,
Yes, that's all.
that's all you can do.
That's all you can do. It's
That's
definitely all you can do. And it's about just appreciating, as she said, like appreciating what you have. Sometimes we might want something that looks like this, and we have this. But yeah, just about appreciating, because sometimes there are certain friends that you can message me and just say, hey babe, I'm just checking in. Or it might even be a comment on an Instagram or in a DM or reply to something. And that actually means so much to me. Obviously, the sitting down and when we go out and we go to a show or sit down and have dinner and a catch up is amazing. But also, you just never know what just checking in with a friend does. And even reminding yourself what it does to you, just kind of feeling that and having someone, just knowing that you have people there. They might not always be there in a way that you would like, but again, are you there for everyone in your life in the way they would like? That's not the way life, works. So again, it's about compassion, grace, extending grace. It's different if people say one thing and their actions are just completely different and they never show up for you. But as you were saying before, it's like a one-way street and there's an imbalance. That's different. But it's just about understanding life is life, and we work in, even if we didn't work in the industries that we work in, life is hard. Like, I often say to people, like, do you not see what's happening around the world? Like the news that we even just absorb by just osmosis, like just hearing it, seeing it on Twitter, Instagram, wherever. That alone would take a toll on you. And we're busy. We're just trying to navigate so many things, juggle so many things. So sometimes we are stretched and we're tired and we're exhausted and we're just trying our best.
Do you think that in this social media world that we live in, that we're losing touch with actually what it means to be friends and connection?
Yes. But for me, I don't think it's social media as in terms of interactions and stuff. I think it's just social media and what it not necessarily represents, but okay, maybe what it does represent. Because I think social media is a great way at staying in touch with people, knowing what your friends are up to, especially if your friends might be across the world or in a different city. So it's great for that. I think what social media does do in terms of friendships is, I think it just allows people or makes people think that things are just very black and white in terms of everything really, but definitely in terms of friendships, because no friendship is, or nothing really in life is a one rule or one size fits all. But sometimes you see on social media and stuff, it seems just very, very, very black and white. If someone does this to you, you should cut them off. Boundaries are this, and once again, boundaries and stuff like that. Boundaries are, they can be subtle. Boundaries also don't have to be so rigid that that boundary for you never, ever, ever, ever changes. So I think the problem with social media, there's not so much nuance, and people often present, we all do it, we don't necessarily present our every waking hour and our every thought. But I think people often just present, I don't know if I'd say an idealized version of things, but also just things that are just too rigid and too black and white, and there's never enough room or space for the grey and the in-betweens. So I think for me, that's a problem with social media when it comes to anything, friendships, relationships.
I agree, but sometimes I do also feel like, because you see people like that's our like you said, that's our way of connecting with people now. I sometimes don't. I realize when I look through my call log, I haven't called people. Because you communicate on social.
Yeah.
Oh, I saw this and this, so they're well. Like even some of my family. Oh, I saw this. And because but we haven't spoken. Like no, that was like you said, a 5 second of what that.
Yes,
was
and you have no idea what else is
going. You have no idea what happened or no idea what else is going on. So I feel like, as much as it's great, because sometimes that's good. Like, oh God, it was this one's birthday, and it's a good reminder. The same way as before, Facebook used to be the ones, IGs now. Oh my God, everyone's posting this. And it's the way, like, well, you see them on holidays, like, oh, oh, that was so great. And you feel like you're there, and it is good. It's a positive because you feel like that's a way to keep in touch. Because especially like I said, everyone's paths have changed and people are living different lives. Someone could be across the world,
Yeah.
and you still feel close to them. But at the same time, I feel like there's still a sense of we need to pick up the phone and actually speak to
Yeah.
people and
Actually speak to people. Be intentional.
but it's an
Step
intentional
outside
bit,
of
but
our.
it's hard because social media
It
is
is. It
so
is hard.
it makes you really think that you are I mean I saw you, I spoke to you, I sent you
Yeah,
an
yeah,
emoji, I did
yeah,
it,
yeah.
that was good. And
Yeah.
don't get me wrong, it is, but sometimes it is a case of actually that person, it is a highlight reel. You don't really know
You
if
don't
that
know.
was what they posted or how they were feeling when they
Yeah.
posted. Because I mean, admittedly, for me, when I post, half the time sitting on my couch,
Listen.
like literally eating crackers or something, and everyone's like, "Oh my god, this!" I was like, "If you only knew."
It's such
You
a
know?
highlight reel.
It's such a
It
highlight
really
reel,
is.
and I feel like we need to remember that. And I wish, I don't know, I'm not saying I'm gonna do it, but I wish people would show more of the real of what is. But sometimes when I see people, for me, I actually follow accounts now when I actually see like the real, like someone's like, this is what my kitchen really looks like when, after they've cooked this amazing meal, and you're like, oh my god, it's such aesthetics and gorgeous. It's like, and this is what this is what I'm having to deal with, because it is.
It
We
is.
all like
Yeah.
we all do it. That, and I feel like we sometimes need that reminder.
We do.
We do, because we go into ourselves and we see these things, and we fantasize.
We do
about, oh my
fantasize,
god,
and we want
like,
everything to be
we
perfectly
want everything to be
created, and
created, or we
yeah.
want this, our friendships to be like this fabulous girls trip, road trip, yada yada yada, and or like whoever it is. But actually, you don't see that. Okay, maybe they had an argument,
Of
like
course,
5 minutes
exactly.
ago, or like they really are not friends. Or it's. I really wish there was a way to reset people's mindsets. I think to be honest, in general, social media has spoiled us. Like, it's such a tool. It's a great tool. Don't get me wrong. It's a fabulous tool when used right, but it's also detrimental at times, because at least we know, we've had this life experience. I feel for people like my niece and the generation coming up, because that's all they've ever
That's
known.
all they've ever had, because
That's
at least
all
we've
they've ever
had,
known.
like, we had a time when we didn't have that. We had a time when
Absolutely.
we had mobile phones, and we were
Yeah.
like, wow,
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
this
To
is
be
crazy.
able to just literally text your friend. Or like, even sometimes, they give you a date and time, but if you miss that date and time, you missed it, right?
Yeah.
Because there was no one to tell you, the date's changed, or
Yes.
that was it. You had to just communicate. And also, you could be free. You could be free to make mistakes. You could be free to, now I feel like, to get someone back, now this person's different, and they'll post a picture of the group, and you're not in it.
Yeah.
And it's that mean culture, and that, bullying. It's now turned into cyberbullying, because that's where everyone's attentions and eyes now. And like you said, that council culture, you just do one thing and like, oh my god, it's done. You don't have space. There's no space to explore and just to be,
to explore and to make mistakes.
and to
no
learn.
one is,
And to learn. I feel like it's really really it's a challenge, and I don't have the answers, don't get me wrong, but it's very much something I do think about, definitely for the generation coming up, and hopefully for my future kids, like the world and society that they're going to grow up in. It's sometimes a little bit scary.
It is scary.
It's like you said, life is life, and life is hard enough, let alone having to, the mind is such a powerful thing, to see something, to think something, and not know if it's true or not.
Yes.
But you're just seeing it, so therefore it is true.
Exactly.
And the same with the tablet, sometimes it's just like they just write anything and just say anything, and I feel like that's what's happening. So you can literally sit on your couch and be typing blah 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 blah, and send it, and you have no sense of how that's going to make that person feel. And it's just like some friendships been ruined
honestly. And also in some ways, like, I think social media is even worse than, I think, tabloid media and stuff, because I think tabloid media has done some things over the years, still does some things, but it's a case of you're online and you read, or you pick up an actual newspaper or magazine, whereas social media is just always on. And you can just scroll.
You can endlessly scroll.
Endlessly.
You can literally, it's not like they turn it off. At least like on TV at 3 a.m. This channel will come back at 6
Yeah.
a.m. or there's a break, or we're going, okay, it's late now, guys. They
Yeah.
turn down, or they show something that's not so, like, they even do the shopping time. It's
Yeah.
like there's nothing else to watch. It's like, you know, for social media,
It's always,
wherever you are in the
wherever
world,
you are in the world, it's always
whatever
on.
time zone you're in
Yes,
the world,
exactly.
it's always on.
Because once
And
everyone
when
has
you
gone to sleep
actually
here,
think, literally,
we have
someone else's
people around the
always
world.
up.
Yeah.
Everyone's up at any
At
time
some
of the day,
point,
at some point.
somewhere
No
in
one
the
ever
world,
sleeps.
yeah.
And that really fascinates me, to think that there's a device that you have in your hand that's super accessible, and wherever you're in the world, you can know something way across the world is happening, or something. It's like, is it too much information?
Yes. Yes, it's definitely too much information.
Are
Yeah.
we literally setting ourselves up to be a generation where we're just, absorbing way too much for our own good? You know, it's detrimental to the human race, because I feel like even now our attention span is so short.
It's so short. It's bad. It's actually bad.
Like,
Yeah.
it's so short. If you don't go viral in da 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 da, it's that. Or if someone doesn't give you how many likes, it's like, wow. And
Yeah.
I don't know if it's a quote or if I heard it somewhere, but someone said, like, if even 20 people
Yes.
came to your room and stared
Yeah.
at you getting out of bed, you'd be freaked
I've
out.
seen a couple of quotes like, yeah,
You know?
exactly. Yeah,
But
yeah.
that you get 20 likes and you're like, oh, that didn't do well.
Yeah, it's
Like,
insane.
that's 20 people
20,
that are
20
watching
whole
what you're
people.
doing.
It's
20
crazy.
whole people.
Yeah, yeah.
But it's not, unless you get how many thousands. Oh, it didn't.
It's crazy.
And it's just really conditioning our minds to the society that. And don't get me wrong, we have to evolve. Life evolves. Life evolved for us to even be sitting here on this couch, right? Society evolved for us to have the privilege that we have,
and it does help with certain things, but again,
absolutely, don't get me wrong.
Yeah, I mean, it helps with a lot of things.
Exactly, especially in our industry.
Yeah,
we rely on it, but
it's about also just being able to just look at things critically and not take everything for face value.
But it's hard.
It is hard.
It's hard. It's easier said than done.
Mm-hmm.
It's really easier said than done, because the mind is a powerful thing. You see something, on the flip side, see it to believe it, right? You see, okay, I want to envision it. So therefore, if you're seeing that, it makes you feel good. It makes you feel what you're feeling. You want it. You're gonna think, okay, but you don't know the other side.
Yeah.
It's a little bit. Like all the questions of this world, you know, like how do we see and navigate that, and how do we help the younger generation to really understand that being intentional, doing the work, going to therapy, and just those are the tools to help
reading,
you really,
picking up a book.
picking up a book, please. Literature, words, like everything's now short form. Like, you know,
everything is short form. Everything is. Therapy speak. All of this,
literally,
it can be someone who literally hasn't done a
everything.
therapy session will give you the most
Absolutely.
therapized speech,
Absolutely.
just because they've seen it on Instagram or wherever.
I feel like it makes it even harder to navigate friendships in this kind of society that we're in, because social media is such a space that people go to escape, but also to sometimes create false narratives.
Yeah.
You know, and just really, it's all in your head. It's all in your head, and to really understand that having a friendship, well, you know, it doesn't have to be many friends, but having a solid friendship, and also allowing yourself for people to help you, and for you to be open with people, I think, it's so key. So I like to end the episode asking about uncomfortable conversations. I feel like as a society, like I said, we're always on our phones, social media, and we talked about being intentional.
Yeah.
In terms of friendships and friendship groups, have you had to have an uncomfortable conversation? How did you deal with it? How did you handle it? How did the other person deal with it?
Yeah. I mean, I've had a couple of uncomfortable conversations. I think one of them was with a very close friend last year. We had a bit of a falling out. I can't even remember what about now. I mean, we were just out one night and there was a lot going on. And I think we stopped speaking for all of 2 days, which felt like a lifetime. But I think he actually beat me to it. He called me. And we were just very honest with each other. Honest about how we felt about each other as friends, but also very honest about how we made each other feel in those moments, and I guess how we can kind of move forward, and also context for why we felt that way, maybe because of things that happened in the past and stuff. So I think that was a great uncomfortable conversation. But I think when you ask about uncomfortable conversations, I think again, with what we've been talking about in terms of social media and other things and narratives, I think uncomfortable conversations don't necessarily have to be about, I don't know, what you've done to me. It can be about, I'm seeing something that you're doing or not doing, but because I care about you deeply and I support you and I want the best for you, I'm able to maybe say to you, oh, have you thought about doing things this way? Or, I don't know, I think it's holding yourself accountable, holding people around you accountable. It might also be another friend, or it might be about a relationship. Because we're super close and we love each other to bits, it doesn't mean I can't say to you, what you did to that friend, I feel like if you looked at it a different way, I don't think that was right. Or it might be an intimate partner. I can see where they're coming from. Because I think there are so many friendship groups that I've seen where people aren't real with each other. And that's not friendship. So again, an uncomfortable conversation might just be, I love you, but you were dead wrong with what you did there. And I don't think that, I'll say it doesn't happen enough. It definitely happens in my friendships. Like, we know that we can say to each other, baby, for real.
It's like, come on now. But I think it's like you said, we love each other and we know each other, but there's some, like you said, some friends that are not real, and you do get that pushback. It's like, oh, what do you mean? Or like, why are you saying it like that? Oh, I think it's not your problem, or I don't know, there's some sort of pushback, you know, like it can be a situation where then it turns into they don't speak to you anymore because you went into it's really navigating that. But I think, like you said, if you go with compassion, go with the fact that, hey, I've seen this, I really want to just address it and just give it to them in a kind and gracious way.
It could still be uncomfortable and hard.
It's uncomfortable and hard.
It's
but
definitely the delivery.
Delivery is very, very key.
I did see something the other day. Sorry, what was about? Someone said, "No, you're not just blunt. You're just not being a very nice person." And I think it just goes back to what you're saying, that you can say something that you know is not going to be easy for someone to take, but there are ways you say things with compassion.
I know.
You know, and sometimes actually there might be times when you are more blunt. Because
I'm definitely very blunt.
You can.
I'm working on that. But I know I'm working on that. Right? He's like, yes, child, I know.
You are, but I love you deeply, and I know still that you do these things with love, and also, it's coming from a kind place, and people are different.
The delivery is very key.
But there are some people who everything they say, maybe to certain people anyway, at least, or it's just blunt. You're not that way. It depends on what it is, or maybe what the environment and the context and everything. There are some people who everything they say is just blunt because they just don't care about how they
do you
live.
think that's the way they are? Like, some people's energy is, we have got compassion because, like I said, from our childhood, our upbringing. But some people just have, that's their nature.
It is their nature, and
some are mean. Don't get me wrong.
Some are mean. Some are mean.
But some are very.
Some are mean. But then also, I feel like, to me, at this stage in my life, those people can almost be on the same kind of level for me, because you might be that way, but if you're always blunt and you don't care about your delivery and how what you're saying is going to affect people, it's my choice now as to whether it's something I'm willing to put up with.
That's true.
As a grown
we all have
adult,
a choice.
we all have a choice.
We all have a choice.
Because if I'm then just taking that and I'm not able to say how it's making me feel, or I do say and you don't care, then I think that would just build resentment and unnecessary resentment. So for me, whether or not it's mean, or the intention is mean or not, if you know what you're doing is affecting someone in a certain kind of way, it is also up for you to do you care enough to,
Yeah, yeah. You have to also, again, use discernment to be like, okay,
Yeah.
I receive it, I hear you. But if you're not willing to change, and it's that person's choice to pull back from you and
Yeah.
end the friendship or distance the friendship, or and you also have to understand that as the person who's delivering it and, you know, not receiving that feedback from the
Yeah.
other person. As much as you want to help them, and yes, you're blunt, and that's, you know, that's how you are.
Yeah.
That's why the people do the phrase of, this is how I am.
Yes.
Accept me for who I am. That's who I am. And don't get me wrong, but there's also a level of self growth and
Self-growth,
understanding.
self
Self-growth.
being accountable as well.
Yeah. Be accountable for your friendships, for yourself.
Because you can also say, listen, this is how I am,
Mm.
but I know because I am this way, it causes certain things. Not just I am this way, and people just need to get in. Life doesn't work that.
Yeah,
Doesn't work that way.
That's very true. We're all humans. We all got feelings. We just have to navigate it the best way we can. And I think it really roots down to, if you're coming from a good place, you know deep down you're coming from a good place, and you're doing the best you can for that friendship. I think that's all you can do.
That is all you can do. But having uncomfortable conversations definitely help to like bolster and strengthen friendships.
Oh wow. Oh, Mikey, thank you so much for joining me on this episode. I could sit here for hours, if not days.
Same. I could do like another couple of hours, another couple of
Absolutely.
cocktails
A couple
as
of
well.
cocktails, you know. Well, thank you for listening to this episode of Cocktails and Conversations. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please subscribe to hear more. Thank you for joining me on this week's episode of Cocktails and Conversations. I hope you enjoyed the chat and found some inspiration to carry with you. If you like this episode, don't forget to like, subscribe, and leave a comment. It really helps us reach more amazing listeners just like you. And let's keep the conversation going. Follow us on social media for updates, behind the scenes moments, and a community that's all about personal growth and good vibes. Cheers!